This thing's got the mojo, and we're not talking about the monkey. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. We've got some interesting ones to talk about tonight, starting with the MOJO Les Paul. Look at this thing. 3-pickup Black Beauty ABR1 bridge with the Bigsby. It's got serious Jimmy Page vibes. However, there's a good handful of things that look like this, so I almost passed this by, thinking it didn't have the mojo factor until this caught my eye. Super 400 inlays, nice. You don't see this combination very often, and the seller says it's from 2006. This is an exceptionally rare one for that particular era. So as if all that wasn't enough, why do I keep saying mojo this, mojo that? It's getting overplayed, Trogly. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of the episode. It's because it literally says mojo at the 12th fret instead of having another inlay. How doofy is that? Honestly, I kinda hate it, but at the same time, when are you ever gonna see that again? I don't even think Gibson would do that for you today if you tried to custom order it. As far as our headstock, nothing else is different. We can tell it's a B7 reissue. 2006 is one of the years it could be. However, it could also be 2016. You would need to look at the case style, which unfortunately doesn't help us really narrow it down too much more. Next would be COA, if there's any pot codes. But in this case, if we take a close look at the fretboard, we can tell it's got the wood grain, so that's real ebony. And a 2016 would have rich light, unless it's one of those ones somebody paid crazy money for to have ebony, which could be a possibility here. But either way, it's kind of cool. Definitely worthy of sharing. If you want the MOJO LP, it's $9,000, listed by Charlie's Guitar Shop. For comparison's sake, a brand new one that looks exactly like this from Sweetwater with full warranty is $7,200. So I have to decide for yourself, is the novelty of it being an older custom order worth it to you to pay a premium? But they're open to offers, so give it a shot. This next one, oh man, it's just fantastic. It's from 2017, and that is a great looking Les Paul. So we were just talking about the rich light era, right? Occasionally, dealers would opt to have maple fretboards put on their customs just so they could have a real wood. This idea first originated for Gibson back in the mid-70s, but the 2010s era ones have unlacquered maple fretboards. We had documented a red one of these, and that guitar has stuck in my head ever since. These are magical beasts. This one's particularly nice because look at the flame top on that. You can tell that's going to have a nice 3D effect to it. It's just insane, the wood grain that it's got underneath it too. It's almost got the deep ridges of a quilt top. Now, I could be saying, that's the outside light, Trogly. This dude's in New Zealand, of course he's going to be living it up. But no, even the inside shots, you can tell that's looking fantastic. The color combination of the chrome, the maple, the blue, the white, very complimentary. Now he does say that he's gigged this thing. It's got scratches, nicks, and dings, although it's kind of hard to see the wear and tear in the photos. But it's got the COA and some of the original hang tags. Thankfully, the fretboard doesn't look too dirty. That's the problem with the unlacquered ones, is once dirt is on them and fingernail wear occurs, you can't get it off. And the back is a very, very deep blue, probably almost black. And we've got some stand rash at the bottom. But how much is he asking? He's firm at $6,300 plus $400 shipping. He doesn't want to sell it, and he's only gonna let it go if he gets what he wants. And not gonna lie to you, Mr. Dan, I think you're gonna get your money. You might just have to wait it out a week or two. Don't listen to any of your haters. That is a fantastic piece. Because when they look good like this, 5 to 7K is totally possible. However, when they're kind of the more ugly cherry sunbursts that don't have quite as exotic tops, that don't pair as well with the maple board, that's when they usually go a little bit cheaper. Well, that's all subjective. Now we've got some customs from House of Guitars, so they're having the 60th anniversary this year. So they decided to have some fun and do a couple of custom orders. So our first one is a nice kind of orange flame top custom. You don't see this finish get used too often, but it's pretty nice. But it's got a traditional ebony fretboard, gold hardware, nothing too crazy. However, we do get a custom truss rod cover, which is nice. 60th anniversary House of Guitars. They also made them custom medallions for the back with some unique wood grain. Then they hit you with the neck. They went for the 5-piece flamed maple. Can't go wrong with that to make it special. I would have liked to have seen a special serial number like HOG XXX. But I figured Siberian's not your style. They also did a figured red tiger. Pretty much all the same stuff here, including the backplate. But this one's got like the aniline cherry dies on the back and has got a little bit of flame figuring within the body. You got a pretty nice neck on this. But hold your hat for this last one. Figured bangle burst. Something about this one just looks great. It's like what we see on the Access Customs all the time, but you don't normally see it on just the regular custom model. But they gave it the whole double staining treatment. It's got that extra broad border. It really reminds me of the first Super Custom that we had talked about in this episode. Except for we don't have the wooden binding, but I always thought that had like a dark evil hue to it. I only wish it could have continued, figured on the sides and the back, have the same coloring. Then that would have been a real knockout. But then instead of their $7,800 price tag, it would probably be like $15,000. Sadly, the back, I would say this is the lesser of the three, but they're all pretty good. And then it's got the red figured neck. But now we need to talk about custom colors for other dealers. Eddie's has been listing some real knockouts. These custom shop juniors are kind of a tough sell, so they had the idea, why don't we give them crazy custom finishes? So our first one is a silver sparkle with the tortoiseshell pickguard, which honestly works really well. It's not something I would have ever thought to have custom ordered, but now that it's here, just slap it in a BJA case and you're ready to go. Got the cool reissue alligator skin case. But that one's gonna set you back 5,500 bones. But if that's just too common for you, how about Brunswick green? This catches my attention even more so. If you're gonna get a cool custom color, you might as well get something that you don't see every day. Silver sparkles, they're out there. But dark green, I feel like the black back photography doesn't do this one any justice. This will probably pop even more so in person. But that's a nice hue. Front and back with a regular headstock. And oh yeah, I like that side profile where you can still see the rosewood from the fretboard joining onto your neck. But sticking with our bowling balls, here's a red Les Paul Custom. It's another one of those finishes that probably looks better in person. We documented a modern DC Les Paul that was in the Brunswick blue once. So if you look at that guitar and now we chroma key it into red, you can kind of tell what it would be like when we switch over to this. But what's really nice about these is they're doing the colors on the back, the sides, and the neck. Sometimes these custom colors, they cheap out and only give you the top finish. But when you're paying a $1,500-ish premium, I would hope so. But hey, speaking of that blue, yeah, there is the blue. Looking great as ever. I don't really have any interesting commentary other than it's blue and it's available. You don't see it every day. Especially not as a mod collection guitar. I'm really curious if in the future people will look down on the mod collection and demo shop. I could see people looking down on demos, but I still feel mods, like the really famous popular ones that captivate the internet, can be just as collectible as the factory custom ordered one-offs, and sometimes even more so. Because you guys gotta remember, it's not rarity that determines the value of a guitar, it's desirability. So if it's a one-off, who cares if nobody wants it? I could custom order a Les Paul Custom today and have them inlay on the fretboard my dirty socks, and nobody's gonna want that thing. But something like my iBird or the Dragon Les Paul, that is a notable piece. And the last one that I saw that they listed was a super silvery sparkle one. So throwing you back to 1977 or the early 80s, and also at the same time the early 2000s with the really sparkly in your face stuff. And then lastly, it's the black bound Trini Lopez in white. That is a choice looking guitar. I just wish the binding popped out a little bit more on the neck because it nearly just looks unbound. And that's the problem with all black bound Gibsons. But now, if we go back to our original guitar we were talking about first, maybe black binding on a maple board would pop a little bit more? I would like to see Gibson do something like that. But besides our black binding, nothing too crazier out there. And we've got a little bit of time left tonight, so here's a few snippets from the past that you might have missed. Double neck guitars are pretty cool. It's a way for musicians on stage to dual wield two instruments. Sometimes it's a 6-string electric guitar with a jangly 12-string. Sometimes it's a mandolin and a guitar. Sometimes, like in Elvis's case, it's a bass and a guitar. There have been many a different double neck guitars throughout many a different brands. If you want a double neck Stratocaster, they're out there. You want a Jaguar and a bass 6? Yup. Is a double telly more your style? Or what about headless? Or crazy BC Rich? What I'm trying to get at here is there have been a lot of double necks in the world, but this one has a very unique gimmick. It splits in half. Kind of reminds me of my April Fool's episode, where I crudely cut in half a Gibson double neck just because I've always wanted to do it. Little did I know Ibanez beat me to the punch all the way back in the mid-70s. This is just such a fascinating idea, because this isn't somebody who just ruined a guitar. This was actually a prototypical idea. Let's face it, double necks, they're not the most practical to use every day. There's a lot of guys who love them in the recording studio because the 6-string side just has a very different feel and sound to it, and you get some of the resonant frequencies of the other non-played instrument if you have them both active. But just the big solid chunks of wood that they do have a vibe. But what if you just want one or the other? That's when this comes in. So apparently they made 3 of these, and it has this interconnecting design on your 6-string that locks to put them together when you want them together, but you can also play the guitars separately. Now, as we learned in my episode, yeah, it kind of makes the guitars a bit unbalanced, and that's probably why this one never made it to production. But you could potentially add some weights. But the problem I ran into is I had to rewire each side to have its own thing going on. But that's where this one is different. It has its own individual output jacks for each guitar, and then our 12-string has 3 different controls with 2 mini toggles. Whereas our 6-string side has your regular 4 controls, a pickup selector, and a mini toggle. So I'm curious, is the mini toggle a coil split? Because that would be very cool and versatile. And then maybe we could assume the same over here on these pickups, but I'm not sure what that other one would be, unless it's a mini 3-way toggle. They probably didn't want to put 2 on because it'd be a bit too boisterous. But then maybe 2 volumes and a single master tone, if we can believe our knobs. That all seems to work. And when you butt them back up together, it's a pretty flush fit. You can definitely see the metal brackets there. And whoa, look at the radius of that bridge. That's insane. Or maybe it's just the photo angle. But then when we flip it over to the back, this is just a super modular design. You want to replace your neck because something went wrong? Yeah, it's a bolt-on neck. Very interesting to say the least. Now, the tuners on the 6-string side have been replaced with some Grovers, and judging by what we see over here, probably a good thing. Although I will say, for cheapy tuners, those look pretty nice, cosmetically. I think it'd be hilarious. The guitar player just splits his guitar in half, hands the 12-string to the singer to play for part of the song, and then they do a dual-wielding solo together, Hotel California style. It's an idea for someone, but you also have to remember this is when Ibanez was using Gibson's headstock design, so that kind of makes it cool that it's from that era too. But it's offered by Guitars West in California if you're interested in making him an offer. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Lots of cool custom colors. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.